about the commercials. And then his name was White, last name was White, and had a tag on there, but he was a black man. His name was Curtis White. So I used to, give a bad time about that. And then I'd be his gopher while he was doing the plumbing at the boys club at no charge. See, he didn't have a lot of money, but he had time and a skill, so he gave back to the community by going to the boys club and cleaning the plumbing. There's a pool there, and in that pool, you had to have hem shorts to be able to swim in it. You couldn't have cutoffs with strings. 90% of us could not swim in the pool because we didn't have hem shorts. And you look at our community of West Linn, you kind of got to go, well, wait a minute. It's a big difference. But they did have skinny dipping 20 minutes of every hour, so we just peel them off and go. Okay, so we still got our swimming in. But Curtis White would be there taking care of, the plumbing. Well, one day the counselor came in and from the boys club and said, Joe, you're going to go with Curtis White today. It's okay with your mom. I have her permission to release you to him. And he took me and signed me up for football in 3rd grade. And he could have, just signed me up and that was it. That's when I saw my first $100 bill when he whipped it out at registration. I was like, whoa, it's a lot of money. So he could have stopped there, but he took me and got me cleats and arm pads. And he could have stopped there, but no, he made sure I got to practice and to the games. I had some good coaches, and they were always harping on being on time and responsibility and discipline and structure. Well, none of that I knew of, because in my house, there was no discipline and structure. In fact, when I was trying to sleep, there was usually a party that started at my house about 2:30 in the morning when the bars closed. So Curtis White did that, and he could have stopped there, but baseball season came around, and then he signed me up for baseball. And he could have stopped there, but he continued to be part of my life, as I wouldn't say a father figure, but, a mentor in some way, just making a difference with his time. When I was 12, by the way, I've been to like 13 schools by the time I got to 4th grade or something. So when I was about 12, I ended up in a different baseball program, and because we had moved. And unfortunately, Curtis was crossing the street one day, and somebody ran a red light, and he was killed. It was a very difficult time. But there's another guy, and his name was Cotton, and he was an older guy, about 60, was my baseball coach. And he knew Curtis, because Curtis was around once in a while. And, when my mom moved again, so I wasn't going to be able to play All-Stars, he took me in for the 6 or 7 weeks of the summer so I could play All-Stars that year. And then afterwards, hooked me up in a baseball program in my community I'd moved to, and a guy named Jack Campion, who used to play for the Dallas Cowboys, took me under his wing. It just seemed like, somebody was looking out for me. And they were all coaches. He ended up getting me to a high school, a Catholic high school, much like a Jesuit here, where I was able to really be in a structured environment. And that's where I met my wife, who I've been married to for almost 23 years. But when you're coaching kids, and that one kid's coming up late all the time, you don't know what his circumstances are. A lot of times we just expect the 12 kids to be there, and we go coach them up and this and that, and we get frustrated because kids are doing this or doing that. But they're just kids. And even in West Linn, there are kids that have extenuating circumstances in their home that you're not aware of. My most satisfying moment coaching in West Linn was, I don't know how many years ago, but it was with my second son. We had a player in our team, didn't get a hit the whole year, usually came with a sweater and half his uniform, would forget his inhaler. My assistant coaches would take over the drills. I'd go back, take him home, get his inhaler, and come back to practice. That even happened on the day of our championship game in the league tournament, and it was more important for me to go get him in the game. He got his first hit in the championship game. We ended up winning it. It was a great moment. Right after he got the hit, we had a 1-run lead. Then he ran off the base and got tagged out, but that was okay. One thing about that kid, he ended up being a starting tackle here at West Linn in the football program. He ended up being quite an athlete, just in a different sport. But his circumstances, single parent, a lot of struggles, a lot of issues. Don't leave any of these kids behind, whether it's t-ball, majors, make sure you're coaching for the right reasons, because you never know if you change one kid's life, you don't know how many people's lives that kid may change in the future because of what you did, for what Curtis White did for me. That's why I coach, and that's why I'm passionate about what I do and how I do. And that doesn't mean I don't make mistakes in coaching or make mistakes how I might treat a kid once in a while, whatever it is. But if you're doing something, do it for the right reasons. So for whatever reason you're here today, because it's mandatory from the league, or because you're a coach because your spouse makes you, or because you just love being with your kid or kids in general, you know, they're all good reasons. Make the most of the opportunity and change somebody's life doing it. Because one thing I learned in that whole process is whenever I was with these coaches and on these teams, there was structure, there was a plan. The coach was working the plan. There was organization. There's responsibility. The coaches wouldn't say to me, make sure your mom gets you here on time. He'd say, make sure you're here on time. Because in my home, all of a sudden, you know, I'd come in my uniform, he goes, you can't come with the dirty uniform. Well, my mom didn't do my laundry. Well, you do it. And if any of you have had kids play for me, one of the first things I'd make them responsible for is their laundry. You know, you do your laundry. Why? You're 10, 11, 12 years old. Why are you doing your laundry? Do your own laundry. That's not an excuse. And if a kid can't do his homework, mispractices his homework, you know what I tell him? I said, that's not an excuse. You bring your homework to practice, you sit in the dugout, and you tell me what you need to do, and you do your homework at practice, and I'll supervise. Guess what? One time. They don't do it again. They go do their homework. So everything's an opportunity. Provide them with structure, discipline, have a plan, make the most of the hour and a half, 2 hour practice you're going to have. So as we start the clinic today, that's the foundation I want to leave you with. I want you to prepare for. And we're going to get into a lot of fun drills, little stuff. One thing about baseball, and we'll get right into it here, is that everybody knows just enough about baseball to be dangerous. Now, the one thing about baseball is there's different ways of describing something. There's different ways to skin a cat. A lot of the stuff here is just going to be a refresher for stuff that you already know or you used to do. It may be, the verbiage may be different, but the verbiage we talk about here is everything we do at the high school level. So when you're in the West Linn program and your kid goes to the camp up at the high school to hit baseballs over Christmas, or a summer camp or something, they're going to hear the same things and the same verbiage that we're going to talk about today. So, there's different ways of doing it, there's different ways of saying it, but this is just the way we do it, so that's the way we're going to communicate it. But you might have your own stuff you're going to add in there as you do your practices as well. I don't want to take away from that, but what we're going to show you, these kids over here, when they were in T-ball, they threw the same way we're going to show you today, because it's the same way we throw at the high school today. So, while we're still waiting on those packets to come in, we're going to go over this drill sheet that we passed out. Boys, you ready? Boys, we're going to put it down. The first thing is, and we'll get into the fundamentals of throwing and stuff, but I want to show you this long toss. I like at the younger level to really make it fun for the kids. So, and I don't mean my practice is a joke, but what I mean is when we're done doing the fundamental throwing, I like to end it with a little competition. And all we do is, we have them start at a, remember we're in a gym today, so it's not going to be a full field. But we have them throw the ball with their partner and play catch. So get the balls on this side, and I'll just say, ready, aim, fire. Full on. We've already done the warm-up for the purpose of the drill. They're starting now. Okay? So just to power step and throw. Okay? So imagine that we're at a longer distance, although for T-ball this would be a long distance. So you got to kind of adjust the distance for what you're doing. And the whole point is we'll just go ready, break, throw. And as soon as somebody drops a ball, they're out and they take a knee, and then the next group take 3 steps further and they start going back. So they just keep moving them back till there's one group left and you have a winner. So you have a little competition that way. The problem with that is if it's the same,